Welcome to this month's GKW safety training meeting. This month we are looking at fall protection and fall prevention. It's more than just a matter of being tied off. It's when to use fall prevention and when to use fall protection systems. Don't know if you heard, but in the news recently there was a man who died in St. Joseph, Missouri in October after falling 57 feet. When OSHA inspected the work site after his death, some of the personal fall protection being used was found to have been worn out and should not have been in use. So these are very important safety guidelines to be compliant with. So let's look at today's training objectives laid out in section 1926M, which covers the nature of fall hazards, the procedures for fall protection, the use and operation of different fall protection systems, the use of controlled access zones and overhead protection, and finally we'll discuss what your role is in fall protection. Across all industries, falls account for 700 deaths and 48,000 injuries almost every year. And of those 700 deaths, 140 of them, or 20%, people falling were less than 10 feet, falling from scaffolds, ladders, roofs, from the tops of equipment, or other elevated work surfaces. Falls is one of the fatal four, which OSHA is always on the lookout for. In construction, among the fatal four of OSHA, falls struck by, being caught between or caught in, and electrocution. Falls accounts for the most. Falls account for 350 deaths a year. The nature of fall hazards is gravity is always working on bringing us down. Gravity propels us at 32 feet per second every second you fall. So after 1 second of falling, you're moving at 32 feet per second, which would be 20 miles an hour. If you're falling for 2 seconds, you're moving at 40 miles an hour. And if you're falling for 3 seconds, you're up to 60 miles an hour. Proper erecting techniques requires a competent person to assemble safety equipment and fall protection. When you're assembling scaffolding, for instance, safety rails are required whenever scaffolding goes over 6 feet. The top rail has to be between 39 and 45 inches. The way to think about that is 3 feet is not high enough. You need to add 3 inches to 3 feet. 4 feet's too high. You have to subtract 3 inches from 4 feet. So it's between 3 and 4 feet is where that top rail should be. And then halfway down from that would be where your bottom rail is. And cross beams and frames can be safety rails provided they are in that 39 to 45 inch zone. Also, make sure you maintain your fall protection systems regularly. Check them before erecting them. Tag out if things are broken. And inspect daily before entering anything where fall protection or fall prevention would be needed. Same goes for disassembling. A competent person would be required to anticipate dangers, who is authorized to stop work, and then correct those dangers. The 8 points of inspection that should be followed when inspecting equipment is to determine walking and working surfaces are structurally safe, conduct a fall hazard assessment, eliminate hazards whenever possible, select the appropriate type of fall protection system, develop a rescue retrieval procedures, plan on inspection, maintenance, and storage, provide fall protection training, and monitor the fall protection program. So let's talk about the use and operation of different fall protection systems. The terms I find to be a little confusing, so I'm going to clarify. Fall prevention keeps you from falling, and fall restraint is a type of fall prevention. And then there's the term fall protection, under which fall arrest is a type of fall protection. So a lot of words in here are sounding similar, and so they tend to get to the point where it sounds like I'm saying the same thing because the words are so similar. So I want to clarify what these terms are. Fall protection systems involve fall prevention, which keeps you from getting to the edge where you will fall off. Fall restraint is a type of fall prevention. And then fall protection involves a fall arrest system, personal fall protection equipment. So fall prevention systems have to start 4 feet from the lower platform. If you remember when we were working at the building on Armour Boulevard, there was a platform on the first level that was over 5 feet, and they put a railing across that so that nobody would accidentally fall off that platform. Whenever using scaffolding, fall prevention starts at 6 feet. If you build more than one frame of scaffolding, you have to start thinking about fall prevention systems. And fall restraint is a specific kind of fall prevention system that physically prevents you from reaching any fall hazard. On tall buildings, they'll put a fence around the edge of the building to keep people from falling off that building. There are also warning line systems which create control access zones. These can be used on the ground to warn people of objects falling from above, or on the roof at 15 feet from the edge, putting a warning line to help people identify the danger of falling from the roof. For roofs less than 50 square feet, a safety monitor can take the place of a warning line system. Now, fall protection, particularly personal fall protection, And personal fall arrest systems start at 10 feet. They involve a harness, a deceleration lanyard, and they should be inspected daily and replaced if damaged. Or if you're at 25 feet or more, a safety net is required. Or provide a platform less than 25 feet. If you remember when we were working at the 821 Mass building, they had the scaffolding built with levels. The scaffolding was above 25 feet, but in order to not have to put a safety net, they built a platform halfway up. Let's talk about the ABCs of personal fall protection now. They had the ABCs all lined out, and then somebody came along later and said, well, you're forgetting a point. You're forgetting a fourth point. And so instead of making it ABCD, they made it ABC and S. Apostrophe S. ABCs, apostrophe S. So A, anchors, B, bodywear, C, connectors, and then apostrophe S for skewing or rescuing. Somebody was being cute there. So let's talk about anchors. You're to be anchored to the structure and choose the appropriate anchor based on the construction of that structure. There are different anchors for wood, metal, concrete. There are parapet clamps and hooks for the tops of buildings, and there are horizontal lifelines, which you drape across the building from one side to the other. Next is bodywear. You have webbing and straps, which should be inspected daily, and then there are buckles, which are used to get in and out of the bodywear. There are different types of buckles, so know the buckles that you're using and how to secure them properly, snugly, and safely. There's the D-ring, which is where your harness connects. And then there's also a thing called trauma straps, which are an optional bit of bodywear. If you were to fall and be suspended, trauma straps allow you to lower something for your foot to rest on. So you're not just having all that weight holding you on your pelvic area and keeping your legs dangling, which can be uncomfortable while you're being rescued. The C of fall protection is your connector that connects to your D-ring. There are snap hooks and there are carabiners. There's also the lanyard that is a connector. It absorbs the force of the fall over a 6 feet area. It spreads out that force, so you're not just coming to an abrupt jerk at the end of your lifeline. There are self-retracting lifelines, which will slowly lower you down, and there are vertical lifelines, which would involve a heavy-duty rope attached to the top of a building, and then a rope grab, which you adjust as you move up and down, keeping it tight so that you're being protected from falling. And then finally, the S is the rescue plan. You need to have a rescue plan because height changes an enclosed space to a confined space. Anytime you're in a space with limited exits, you're in a enclosed space. And it becomes a confined space, con meaning with, and fin or fine meaning end, because you are in limited exits with something that could end you. How I try to remember the difference between enclosed space and confined space is that you are with something that could end you in a confined space. So you must have an escape plan, a rescue plan, and a space attendant anytime you are in a confined space. And this applies to height. So always have a rescue plan, and someone who is outside of that confined space knows you're at that height and can keep an eye on you need to be rescued. OSHA also requires us to discuss sloped roofs. We don't work on roofs that are sloped very often, but if the roof is sloped, don't put machinery on it, and build scaffolding beside it so you can access the roof safely. Let's talk about overhead protection. Always wear your hard hats whenever there is a height-involved work that something could fall off of and strike you. Provide overhead protection for those who would not be wearing hard hats, who might wander into the work site. When you can't create a controlled access zone, set up protection for those who aren't wearing hard hats. And when you do that, you can't have the overhead protection be more than 9 feet above them, otherwise whatever falls onto the overhead protection could then fall again and accelerate and still cause an injury. Also for overhead protection, if you're using a tool, make sure you secure it, either with a tether or with a tool bag. So what is your role in fall protection? 1. Know when to use fall prevention and know when to use fall protection. Fall prevention starts at 4 feet between levels, or at 6 feet for scaffolding. Personal fall protection when you are 10 feet above the ground, or when you're 25 feet above the next level for a safety net. Always inspect your fall protection and fall prevention equipment daily before you use it. If it is damaged or worn, tag it out, repair it, or replace it. Exercise your responsibility and stop work authority. Anticipate hazards and take actions when you see them. And participate in safety training. Let's review a bit of what we talked about. There's a lot of material we covered, so let's hit some of the highlights. First point to review is that fall deaths is one of OSHA's fatal four, accounting for 700 deaths per year in all industries, and half of that being in construction. Personal fall protection is required at 10 feet, and people can die falling less than 10 feet. Fall prevention is required on scaffolding above 6 feet and platforms above 4 feet. Gravity will make you fall faster the longer you fall. So if you're falling for 1 second, you're moving at 32 feet per second. And if you fall for 2 seconds, you double that. And if you fall for 3 seconds, you add another 32 feet per second. It just keeps adding every second that you fall. Remember the ABCs of personal fall protection. Anchor it, the body harness, your connection, or rescuing. Know the difference between fall prevention, what keeps you from falling, keeps you from coming to the edge where you could fall, like a fall restraint system, or fall protection, which would catch you while falling, also known as fall arrest. Always remember to protect people below from getting hit from above, using control access zones, overhead protection, hard hats, tethers, and tool bags. And finally, always inspect your safety equipment daily before use. Inspect your scaffolding, inspect your fall protection systems, and make sure nothing is worn out or loose and endangering you. There will be an exam. Please click on the link provided below and take the exam. When you are taking the exam, you can go back and watch this video as many times as you need. You can go back and watch it while you're taking the exam if you'd like. And you can even go back and change your answers within the exam until you hit the button that says done. Once you hit done, you're done. Thank you for participating in this month's safety training meeting. Let's be safe out there.